listen, let me be very clear and very honest. I feel for all of these local businesses that are struggling, all these local business owners. I don't feel for people that are defying orders, like Shelley the barber, or whatever the hell her name was, Salon Shelley, who gets $18,000 from the government and then says she can't put food on the table. She's a scam artist. I don't feel sorry for those business owners. I feel sorry for the workers. I feel sorry for small business, not large businesses. I feel sorry for the workers and small business. But with that being said, there's a local Michigan music shop owner that was forced to close his shop. Now, when I first hear a story like that, I'm sad about it. Maybe the guy, wasn't able to sell enough flutes or something. I mean, I don't know, but I feel bad for the guy, okay? By the way, for the record, our producer plays the skin flute every night, but that's another story for another show. But in all seriousness, this Michigan, what's the problem, Stein? This Michigan music shop owner was forced to close his store. So I want you to listen to this story, and I'm going to have a different take on this one, okay? While I still feel sorry for this guy, well, let me stop with my opinions and let's play the story first, and then I'll share with you why I don't feel as bad for this guy as I feel for some other business owners. Have a listen to this. Again, this is a Michigan music shop owner that was recently forced to close his shop, and he's claiming it's only because of the coronavirus pandemic. Have a listen to this from Fox 17 Detroit.
It's not just the closing of a stupid store. It's the closing of a dream.
Steve Walker, playing music with his son Mike, making the most of a difficult time, having to close his store, the Walker Music and Textile Company.
This is who I am. People that know me know it is. I can't tell you.
Walker says the governor deeming his business as non-essential is what really hurt them.
I've been sitting here for 60 days watching my neighbors across the street do business day in, day out. They aren't thriving, but they are surviving. There's no reason in hell I couldn't have done the same thing.
And he says he struggled to get unemployment, and his business received no money from the county, even though he applied for assistance.
There was only $32,800 granted for Berry County in total. Of that $32,800, 5 businesses were the recipient of that money.
Not receiving any financial help, making it hard to bounce back, especially when the bills keep piling up.
And of course, we have our phones and internet and water bill and insurance and on and on.
Sadly, now they're closing permanently, selling their inventory. And he says he wishes the governor had a reasonable policy that guaranteed help for all small businesses.
I don't want a stupid handout from the government. I want my hands untied so I can work.
All right, so here are my opinions on that. I don't want a stupid handout from the government, and then he's crying that he's losing his job. So here's my take on this whole story. First of all, I feel sorry for this guy. I do. When I hear him crying and all that, I wish he was able to keep his store going. I really do. With that being said, if you had a really successful business and your store was doing really well and you were making money, you're telling me that you couldn't go a couple months without your store open? I find that very hard to believe. That's number one. Number two, he said it himself. He doesn't want a stupid handout from the government. If the government is willing to pay you to get you by until you are allowed to reopen, then I don't want, and you're not willing to receive that, then I don't want to hear you crying. I don't want to hear your baby crying. I feel sorry for a lot of people out there. But here's what I think about this guy. Hold on. Here's what I think about this guy. I don't think he sold enough guitars. I don't think he sold enough flutes. I don't think he sold enough drums. I don't think his store was very successful. Maybe, just maybe, he was not a good businessman.
Have you seen his financials, Brian?
Okay, hold on a second.
You haven't.
Okay,
First
of all, hold on. I want to open up the phone lines.
Your take is so ridiculous because you have zero experience whatsoever owning a business, Brian.
Okay, if you could give me another 20 seconds.
There are so many things that go on and that go into it.
Okay, if you could give me another 20 seconds so I give up the number, and then you could come back at me with your rage. Just give me a second here. Just maybe, and I say maybe, it could be that maybe the business wasn't doing very well. Maybe he wasn't a good businessman. Ricardo's in Las Vegas. I used to go there. I'll be honest with you. I didn't like the food. I'll be honest. I went in there. I didn't like the food. Every single time I went into Ricardo's, I didn't see a lot of people in their restaurants. Now, I'm sorry that they had to close down. I really, truly am. But maybe if Ricardo was making more money, maybe, just maybe, this business would remain open. Find me one really, really successful business that was flourishing 2 months ago that now all of a sudden had to close its doors. I'll open up the phone lines. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm being unfair? Do you think I'm showing a lack of empathy?
You are.
If I could just give out the number. JD, I have to give out the number. All right, you give out the number. Go ahead.
702-257-5396.
I think that's the number for Panda Law.
That's pretty funny. All right, I'll give out the number one more time, JD.
No, actually, that is the number.
Then
that
you can.
Is the correct
let me
number,
give out the number one more time. Then you can take the floor.
That's
if you
the first time I've ever given out the number.
It is.
And I'll be honest, it felt terrible.
Oh,
I'm surprised you knew it.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
Good. I don't know
I hope I never have to do that again.
Okay.
I don't know the number.
I'll give out the number one more time. And my question.
Honestly?
My question to the listeners is
I don't
this.
believe that at all, Stein.
My question to the listeners is, do you guys want to have a conversation in the bathroom? I'll continue the show.
It's a
Go ahead.
Friday.
Okay,
Sorry.
fine.
We got a case of the Fridays.
You know, Brian, we wouldn't fit in your bathroom.
And we're drinking, too.
Well, Stein would definitely fit in the bath. I don't know about you, JD. But anyway, my question to the listeners is this. Do you agree or disagree with me, and do you think that this is all the coronavirus, that some of these small businesses, the only reason why they're closing is the coronavirus? And what do you think about a local business owner that says he doesn't want a check from the government, but then he wants to cry when he has to close down his business? Isn't it possible that this guy, maybe he just doesn't sell flutes very well, or drums, or guitars, or whatever the hell else is they sell in a music store? I'll give out the number one more time, 702-257-5396.
I actually think you're taking this position because you don't actually believe it, because it is so over the top and crazy. First of all, he has a store. What does that mean? That means he has rent, right? He sells other people's supplies, or he has to get inventory. We don't know what his margins are. We don't know if he has lines of credit out through banks. We don't know about his employees. You have no idea about this guy's financial situation. And he didn't say that he wouldn't take a handout from the government. He's saying he doesn't want one. He doesn't want to live off the government after this business closes down.
Well, I don't want a flute from his store either.
That's fine. You don't have to. But also, if he has a business, if it's an actual store, that means he relies on what? On foot traffic, Brian. He's not making money digitally. So people can't go to his store because he's a non-essential business. He is going to go out of business because of the coronavirus. And if he's paying even $4,000 to $5,000 or even $3,000 to $4,000 a month in rent, that's $12,000 out the window. That's just the rent. If his margins are only 20 to 30% on his products, which they most likely are, it could be 50 in some cases. That alone is going to knock out all of his margins. A lot of people have small businesses because they just want to work for themselves. They don't want a handout from the government. They would much rather literally die than live off the government. And there is a lot of business owners across the United States that have that same thought process. I am one of them. I would never in a million years live off the government. I would never rely on the government for shelter, for food, for anything like that. I'm not that type of guy, and there's a lot of people, men and women, out there who have that exact same thought process, and that's what this guy. And this guy is so angry because he has a niche clientele, and that clientele is not able to show up to his store and spend money. So, yes, I do believe whether his financials were outstanding, you're basically saying that the coronavirus is survival of the fittest for large businesses. That's what you're saying right now, or for businesses in general, and that's just not the truth at all.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You are.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Go ahead, Stein.
I was just going to say, just to add, he does also give lessons to students in his shop. And then also, he might not want a government handout, but if you listen to the story, he did try to get a government handout.
He tried to get a loan. That's not a handout, son. That's a giant difference.
Okay.
He tried to get a loan from the government to help his business stay afloat.
You're right. He tried to get
that is not a bailout.
Okay, relax.
Bailout, handout, that is either that's because you choose not to work
get your point.
or because your poor decision-making caused you to lose your business.
He tried to get help from the government and says he could not.
702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Alan. Alan, you're first up on the Vegas take.
Hey, what's up, Alan?
Look, guys, I got some good news. I had mentioned before I got doctors in the family. This is breaking now on Fox News. This company is a biopharmaceutical company in California. It's called Sorrento Therapeutics. It has discovered...
What does this... Okay, sir, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but what the hell does this have to do with what we're talking about?
Because it's a cure for the coronavirus. Do you want to hear about it?
When we're talking about the coronavirus, I would like to hear about it. This is how radio shows work, sir. I'm not trying to be rude. With all due respect, you can call back anytime. Stay on topic. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 257-5396. Let's go to David. David, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, David?
Good morning. Hey, good morning, guys. So, Brian, this is not a slight, but clearly you have never run a small business in your life. So you have no point of reference for what you're saying.
It's not true. I ran a lemonade stand when I was 17 years old. That's factually inaccurate, sir.
Okay. Sorry. My point well taken. Also, California currently wants a $1 trillion bailout from the government.
You're right,
Are
they
you
do.
telling me that the largest state in the world has been run so poorly that they need a bailout?
No, listen, I understand what you're saying.
Your logic is this guy ran his shop so poorly, that's why
No. Listen, let me be clear on what I said.
I love that. You could apply that to California, all the states in the western states pact, as well as Illinois, New York.
All right. Well, if I could just talk before JD interrupts me again, because I'm afraid he will within 5 seconds. See, he just did it again.
I will not interrupt you.
Within 5 seconds of when I start talking. That's about the 10th time today. All right. So what I said was this: there is a possibility that maybe this guy didn't run his business very well. That maybe it wasn't just the coronavirus that shut him down. I brought up Ricardo's in Las Vegas, and I will tell you from personal experience, and I'm just being honest here, number one, I didn't like the food. But even if you like the food, every time I went to a Ricardo's the last couple of years, there was like nobody in there. So you cannot convince me that Ricardo's was flourishing, and all of a sudden it was the coronavirus that they said, okay, guys, we got to close the shop. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how much money this guy was making, but here's what I do know. There are some businesses, not all, and I'm not even saying the majority. You don't have to own a small business to understand that there are some small businesses out there, and this was like the last out for them, and they had no other choice. But maybe they weren't good business people. That's a fair point I think I'm making, and it's an honest point.
Well, most small businesses operate on, and restaurants in particular, operate on a very small margin. Of the 30 days a month that they're open, maybe 2 or 3 of those days are profit, and the rest of it is covering operating costs. And as a small business owner, there's really no way around that unless you're just flush with cash, which most aren't. They're working people.
Listen, I appreciate your point, and I appreciate your phone call, and I don't disagree with everything of what you said. The only point I was trying to make is I think there are some businesses out there that are using the coronavirus as a scapegoat for the fact that maybe they just didn't run a very successful business. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Melissa. Melissa, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Melissa?
Yes, the first time I call in, and I think the point that guy had a successful business is not any kind of point at all. I don't care whether or not he had a good business or not. What I care about is that the money goes where it's supposed to go, and that we start this economy again and get those people back out working, because that is the backbone of our democracy. I mean, there's bigger things here that we need to consider than just what people feel like. Oh, I feel this, I feel that.
Can I ask you a question, Melissa?
Want to work because
I understand.
Our kids have to eat.
Sure. Melissa, I understand. I understand, but let me ask you a question. Let's take this a step further. You said you're right. There are a lot more bigger issues. How about close to 90,000 people dying? Do you think that's a big issue as well?
Absolutely, that's a big issue. But
good.
I feel that we as citizens of this country, as adults, know exactly how we can safeguard other people. Now, some of the information that we were given at the very beginning, that there were going to be millions and millions of people that were going to die.
That was, hold on a second, but hold on. That was with zero. No, but hold on. Let's put some context to that. A couple million. Yeah. That was with zero social distancing. Zero. Okay. We are social distancing, so that number to me is irrelevant.
And it's not irrelevant, Brian, because the caseload has not gone down due to our social distancing.
I have just been to Blueberry Hill, and they are really being very careful. They are wiping everything down. They are giving us special utensils to eat and everything.
That's great. Not every business does that. That's great. That's wonderful. I'm happy to hear.
The people of this country know what to do. And
the people of this country know what to do. Well,
you know what I think?
Hold
I
on a second.
think that they want this economy to fail.
All right, well,
They
hold
want
on a
this
second.
economy to fail.
You aren't
Okay.
the only one that thinks
Okay,
that.
well,
trust
hold
me.
on.
There are
Okay.
tens of millions of Americans who believe that,
Okay,
and I'm one of them.
Okay, well, that's ridiculous.
No, it's not at all. Not
yes,
even a little bit.
Yes,
Brian.
it is. Okay.
It is far from
All right,
ridiculous.
so can
Brian.
I talk to the caller? Caller, hold on a second. You think that there are people in this country, there's people in this country that want people to die and want this pandemic to continue. Can you please name me one person on the record that is a politician that has said that would lead you to believe that?
There's all sorts of politicians that
I
say
didn't say all. That wasn't my
never
question. Excuse me,
trust what a
ma'am.
politician
Ma'am.
has to say.
Ma'am,
Trust what
I
the
didn't
facts
say.
No, in this case, Brian,
All right,
it's
JD's gonna interrupt me again.
actions speak louder than words.
Okay.
No politician is openly going to make that statement.
So I asked
It's
you.
not gonna happen.
Okay, so let me go to the caller again. I'll ask you again a second time. You just said now all sorts of politicians. I'm asking you to name one specific politician that would lead you to believe that they intentionally want the economy to drop and that they intentionally want people to die. Please name a second. Can you name one?
A lot of people have different agendas.
Okay, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate that. All right, I appreciate the call. Thank you for the phone call. But when you're going to make an idiotic claim like that, you better have some facts to back it up.
There's another thought on this one too, Brian. Let's say that the state of Michigan or any local government or any state government decided 2 months ago we're not going to close down. We're gonna stay open. Everything's going to stay open, and people can make their own decisions. They can wear masks. They can social distance. Do you think that a lot of parents, given what we've been told about the virus and the intensity of the virus, would let their kids go into that music store to have lessons? I mean, there was a chance, hypothetically, that this guy was going to close anyway.
I agree. And that's exactly, Stein, you're making my point for me. That's exactly what I've been saying.
I'm making your point.
Let's get back to the phone calls.
The point is 99% of businesses in America are small businesses. And if there are millions of people like this gentleman in America that are going to lose their businesses, they are going to have to either join get hired at a major corporation and not make a lot of money, because at this point, if you've got 5 or 10 more million unemployed, whether it's because they work for a small business or they own a small business, these major companies, they're not going to have to pay a lot of money for the talent because there's going to be such a demand for jobs in those situations.
My point is, shutdown or no shutdown, a lot of small businesses would probably be hurting right now.
No question.
Absolutely.
Let's get back to the phone.
Because, like I said in that example, parents would not want their kids to go and have one-on-one music lessons at a time when there's a scary virus out there.
I don't think you can definitively make that
No,
statement.
I'm not. I said there's a possibility.
Of course there's a possibility. There's a possibility that Bill Gates is Anunnaki and came
Well, I
down
just don't
from
think
space as a lizard out of Neptune. I mean,
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
that's a possibility.
Okay, well,
that's a
that's ridiculous.
conspiracy theory.
That's
something
ridiculous.
along those lines.
Okay.
But this is not ridiculous, Brian.
Okay.
If all these, if
Hold on a second. No, wait. Hold on.
If many,
Hold on a second.
What do you mean? Hold on.
He just made up. Hold on a second.
What?
You're diminishing what he just said.
I'm not diminishing what he just
Let
said.
me explain. He just
Why can you interrupt me, but I can't interrupt you?
Well, I'm sorry.
How does that work?
Okay.
How can you say hold on and I have to just drop my mic?
All right. If you want to yell,
I'm
go
dropping
ahead.
my mic.
Go ahead. Okay. I'll explain to you why I just got upset. Okay? Because you get upset all the time at me. I'll explain to you why I got upset.
Brian,
Stein,
you know.
All right. You just interrupt me. Go ahead. I won't even talk the rest of the show. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish the segment.
You can obviously talk the rest of the show, Brian. All I'm saying is the statement that you made about this small business owner comes from, like that caller, David said, zero reference point. You don't know what you're talking about under these specific circumstances. And what can happen to the United States if these small businesses have to close their doors? We could legitimately be looking at socialism. That's what happens when a large percentage of the country has to rely on the federal government for survival. And in this situation, if we keep having to, let's say these small businesses shut down and we pass this $3 trillion stimulus bill, and every single American gets $2,000 a month for the next 2 or 3 months. And they are, at this point, I mean, you've got people that are on unemployment right now that are getting $600 a month or a week extra that are refusing to go back to work because they're making so much money compared to what they were before. One of our close friends is literally making almost $1,200 a week sitting at home doing nothing. Right now, people in that situation would prefer not to go back to work, and that's a common thing. And so if we keep giving people money from the government and diminishing the value of the dollar at the same time getting these people used to living off the government. By August, if this thing lasts too long, August or September, we could legitimately be looking at a socialist America. And what a lot of the callers and what I'm saying is that is the opposite of what America is all about. We're a capitalist country. We are a democracy. And what has happened to these small businesses right now could literally change the absolute way that America functions as a whole.
Well, we don't know.
From an economical perspective.
Just like I threw out a hypothetical, you're throwing out a hypothetical, JD. We don't know what's going to – you're saying it's going to be a socialist country in August. We don't know that. It could happen. Anything could happen.
Okay, this owner, this music store owner,
Okay.
if his job is gone, right, and he's getting paid from the government, what is he doing? What's he going to do when he goes back to work and his company is gone? What is he doing? Who is he working for? How is he surviving? Who's paying for him? Likely the federal government is. That's the whole point. If there are millions of people like him and people who work for him that are in the exact same situation,
Well, last I checked,
how are they getting how are they getting employment?
Last I checked, businesses are reopening across the
You're
country.
right. Some are. You're right. In some places, but in a lot of
the bottom line is we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know.
All right, can I interject now?
But I would say a socialist country without Bernie Sanders would be a real shame.
The reason why I was interrupting you before you went on that diatribe was because Stein made a point that even with that music store remaining open, he gives lessons and stuff, and good possibility that I know you're about ready to interrupt me again, even though I let you talk for 8 minutes, and I've only been talking for 10 seconds, but if you can please let me continue, I would appreciate that. Stein brought up the point that, because I just lost my train of thought because I thought you were going to interrupt me again. Stein just brought up the point that this guy gives lessons, music store lessons, right? And he made the point that it's a strong possibility that a lot of responsible parents out there perhaps would not bring their kids for this guy to give lessons. That's all he said. I think that is a very reasonable response, or reasonable thing to think. And then you made the response, well, anything could happen. Bill Gates could, be probed by an alien. I think you said something along those lines. And I thought that was extremely ridiculous. And that's why I kind of jumped in, because I thought that was unfair.
Is that John Burchagan calling?
Who's calling in? I don't know. But I thought that
a
was.
bunch of text
I
messages.
just thought that was extremely unfair of you to do. That's all.
And the reason, you can say that. Let's assume that that's 80% of his revenue. We don't know how much money he makes from that. We don't know that could be 10% of his business. That could be 15% of his business. That isn't his entire business. That is something that he offers along with. That's a service he offers along with his store by itself.
We don't know.
So again, we don't know if those lessons would make or break him.
Okay,
so
but I think what we do know is that
I don't believe that
probably
someone
wouldn't
who
get the
has
same
a,
number of customers.
who has a store like that would be relying on 60% of his revenue to come from in-person lessons.
I just say that to blame the governor, that's an easy thing to do. Maybe blame the virus. That might be something. Just blame the virus.
Well, of course I'm going to blame the virus. It's an unfortunate circumstance, and I wish we never had to shut down. I wish all these businesses could continue to remain.
That
open.
being said, maybe he should have been stayed open.
I don't know. That's possible.
Let him stay open. It's less than 10 people in there at a time.
Yeah.
I feel for people like him. It's a small business. It's not a casino. It's not a stadium. So, but that's policy. That's different. That's different.
And I started off the segment by saying that. With that being said, I think it's fair to raise the possibility that maybe he wasn't a very good business person and maybe his store wasn't flourishing. That's also possible. That's all.
And those who support this because you think that, you say you've been living off the government for X amount of years. If there's more people living off the government, the amount of money that you're getting from the government, especially after the coffers are basically just drained during this process, the amount of money drops, and therefore so will your standard of living.
Okay, so I know
that's what happens if too many people are living off the government.
I know we have a lot of people on hold. I'm sorry I didn't get to your calls. We'll try to get to as many as we can coming back from break. And again, that number is 702-257-5396. I promise we'll get to your calls on the other side. Again, that number is 257-5396. Just sit tight for a few minutes. Get right to your calls when we come back. You are listening to The Vegas Take. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. We're talking about this local business owner in Michigan crying in a news story, forced to close his shop. I'm saying maybe there's a possibility he didn't sell enough flutes. Maybe that's why. Maybe he's just not a good business owner. But we're taking your calls. What do you think about that? 702-257-5396 is the number to call. I promised I'd get right to the lines. Let's go to Elle. Elle, you're first up on the Vegas Take. How you doing?
Good morning, guys. Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hey, what's
Brian,
up, Elle?
2 points. Let me make 2 points. As far as this business owner, I'm going to side with you as to whether the business was profitable or not. For this reason, when you open a small business, you have probably a 60% chance that it's going to fail. Now, you have some astute business owners who manage to survive, you know how they do it? They write off all of their losses, sort of like this president has done. And what happens, the government ends up supporting the businesses anyway. So it's socialism what for the businesses or socialism for not. Now, let me make this point about this health crisis we're having. This virus reminds me a lot of California when they decided out of nowhere they were going to ban smoking everywhere. Why they did it? Because your rights stop. You have the right to smoke and kill yourself, but your rights stop where mine begin. I don't want to smoke. It was proven secondhand smoke.
Exactly.
So now the government has decided this virus is serious enough where other people are catching it thousands a month. They can step in. And the Seattle officer, he should have been fired. But I love you guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Always good to hear from you.
Good call, Al.
Stay safe and have a great weekend. We appreciate you.
And I will say this in response to the business owner. Some business owners are just fine, barely making any money, getting by, but doing what they love. And I think that's what this guy was. I think he was one of those guys that just loved, giving kids music lessons and selling products out of his music store. Whether it was very successful or not, that doesn't mean that he has to go out of business because of a coronavirus.
Sounds like 98% are people that are on the air and radio. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Mike. Mike, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Okay, I'm a CPA, and I've worked with these kind of businesses like the music store owner for over 30 years. And Brian is totally wrong on the fact that he thinks that if it's a successful business, he could probably operate for 2 months. I would say I worked with successful businesses, and my guess is that 95% could not survive a 2 month.
Okay, so you made my point for me. Sir, with all due respect, you made my point for me. You said your guess is 95%. How do we know that this guy might have been in that 5 percentile?
That's true. It could be. But even then, over 30 years, I would say very few ever went out of business in normal times, even in the tough times.
Well, it's possible, and I didn't say for sure 100% that this guy is a bad business person. What I did say, because you got to pay attention to my language.
No, you said the exact opposite. You said that basically 95% of businesses should be able to last 2 months.
Not what I said. Not what I said. What I specifically said was, isn't there a possibility that this guy maybe wasn't selling enough flutes or drums or whatever they sell in there? Maybe he's not a very successful businessman. That's all I said. That's all I said.
Well,
and I stand by it.
I would agree you that he may not be a very successful businessman, but the reality is most small business people are operating just like him. They have a job, okay? They don't have a lot of money put away because of the business they're in. They're able to, instead of working for somebody else, they're working for themselves, and they're very happy about that.
Exactly.
That doesn't make him a bad businessman. It makes him a small businessman who's
maybe his
doing
products
what he wants to do.
Maybe his products aren't very good. I'm going to talk a little bit about a local business again, and I'm not trying to rag on them because I've been in Ricardo's plenty of times. As you know, they recently shut down. All I can tell you is this. I've been going to Ricardo's for years. I cannot recall a time I went in there the last several years where it was jam-packed in any of their businesses. I'm just being honest with you. So I don't think this.
Yeah, here's something interesting for you.
Do they do takeout though, Brian?
I've worked with a lot of restaurants over the years, and I can tell you this: the statistics are unreal. If you go to a restaurant and have a bad experience, there's a 50% chance you'll never go back again. If you do go back and have a second bad experience anytime after, there's like a 98% chance you'll never step inside that restaurant again. So I'm a little confused as to either you're very, very abnormal or you did like the experience most of the time.
Well,
I've never been to Ricardo.
I love that spin, Mike. Good job.
Here's and thank you for the call, Mike. We appreciate your perspective. We might not agree on everything, but I appreciate your call. The times I went into that establishment, it was cheap. It was I consider it fast food at Mexican. That's what I considered it. I didn't think it was extremely high quality, but I don't consider fast food high quality either.
Do you
but
like Del Taco?
It's okay. I don't consider.
Is it better than Del Taco?
Well, here's what I'll say. Okay, there's a lot of fast food chains, and I think a lot of people will admit that maybe McDonald's doesn't have the highest quality of food, but yet people still go back. Now, why do they do that?
Branding.
Well, here's my answer. It's fairly inexpensive. They call it fast food for a reason. It's quick. People are on lunch breaks. They need to go there. And at the time, it tastes fairly good, but it's not good for you. Those are the three reasons why people go to fast food.
I would argue that it's branding, and in McDonald's case, they're very accessible. Right. Almost every single major street has a McDonald's, and it's very easy to get
Ricardo's
to.
is still open. Sean, what do they call that thing? Can you tell me in my ear? What's their little party that they're having?
Yeah, that
The
farewell
fiesta.
Wow.
Okay,
That
so you
actually
can
sounds
one
like
last
fun.
fiesta.
That's a long fiesta, 9 hours. And I will say this, Ricardo's, I've never
They'll probably do good business that
I've never
day.
actually been there, but they could have delivery. They could have takeout service. Just because they're not busy when you're there doesn't mean they don't do good
All right,
business,
let's
Brian.
let's get.
And they do advertise with some radio shows.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines at 702-257. Well, not for long. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Wayne. Wayne, you are next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, Wayne, it's been a while.
Yes, I've been busy, you guys. I just told the screener Tubians I'm assigned to USS Mercy. You're going to get it written in our medical records because of this phone call. But anyway, I feel
I have
you
no
should
idea what you just
apologize.
said. I don't understand
I
what you
want
just
you-
said. Go
I
ahead.
know,
Going in
I
Wayne's
feel
chart,
you should
Brian.
apologize to the Seattle policeman, and I'm going to just ask you my reasons for that statement. Why
Wait, you want
should.
me to apologize to him?
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely going to happen.
Wayne, this
He's
is delightful.
a first responder. He has the lawful right to his opinion. If
He has the lawful right to his opinion. Excuse me. He has the lawful right to an opinion. We all have the lawful right to an opinion. What we don't have is the lawful right to disobey our bosses and not do our job properly. So you completely disagree. Now I completely disagree with you. I'd like you to apologize to me for me being a part of your chart.
He did not obey anything his boss told him.
What are you talking about? Every single state, their superiors tell them to listen to what the governors say, and if they open their store and they disobey, they have the right, and they should, tell them to either cite them, give them a warning, and if they continue to do it, they can arrest them. That is exactly what their superiors are telling them to say. You got to put that down in your chart, and I want an apology right now. Wayne, I want you to apologize to me right now. Say, Brian, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Do it.
No,
I
I'm
think you
going
guys
to tell
should
you why you
digitally hug.
I want an apology,
In
Wayne.
the court of law, Brian.
Doesn't sound like an apology.
First responder. You do what he says until after court.
All right. Well, this is a court order, and this is a lawful order. I want you to apologize to me, or you can't call back.
No, Brian.
Say you're sorry. Say you're sorry, Wayne.
Stay strong, Wayne. Stay strong.
All right.
Do not give in, Wayne.
I want to know what Wayne's chart looks like. Wayne, thank you for the call.
Wayne.
I appreciate it.
Really good
Thank
call,
you.
Wayne. Thank you very much.
I just realized why I didn't miss Wayne calling into our show. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Who's next? Let's go to, this will be fun. Let's go to Brady. Brady, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Brady?
Yeah. Good morning, gentlemen. Brian, you need to take a business class, my friend. You
need to graduate from high school. You need to graduate from high school. Then I'll take a business class. What do you think about that?
I've been a business owner here in Las Vegas for 15 years, and let me tell you what.
I'm sure you're very
Don't
successful.
you ever say Ricardo's has been a failure of a business. That has been an icon of Las Vegas for 40 years.
It has been a staple for 45 years.
I'm
Brian.
sorry if I hurt your
It has
feelings, Brady. Tell Ricardo, send him my regards.
You know what?
Go ahead,
That
Brady.
cop, the Seattle cop, I would like to have him take over for Sisolak immediately. He's got a brain on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Very smart, I agree.
Listening to Anthony Fauci,
Yeah.
and you're going to turn into.
You know
like
what I'd like Brady to take over for? I'd like Brady to take over for those in the psych ward right now that maybe are getting a little bit better. Let him take over for every psycho in this town.
Talking about Shutter Island?
Yeah. That's
Oh,
where
okay.
Brady.
I got
That's
you.
where Brady belongs because he's got to be the dumbest caller in 20 years I've
Actually,
done
Brady,
radio.
that was a really, really good call.
Have a
from you.
nice day,
I
Brady.
enjoyed that. Thank you very much.
Literally the dumbest person I've ever spoken to in this town in 20
By
years.
the way, I'm buying a book for Brian. It's called Small Business for Dummies.
Yeah, okay. All right. Fair enough. I'll buy you a book that says Small Conspiracy Theories for Big Men. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Alex. Alex, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Alex?
Hey, hi, Brian. Listen, you finally won me over again with your knowledge. The lemonade stand businessman, where's that lemonade stand today, buddy?
I was 17 years old, and I made enough money to be able to take my girlfriend out on dates.
It's a little old for
Yeah.
a lemonade
I'm
stand.
a little.
That is really old, Brian.
Yeah, but
What? Time
Alex,
out.
hold
You
on.
said you were 17?
You were a junior in high school?
Yeah. Maybe I was 14. I don't know.
Are you sure you
I
weren't
don't remember.
8? Tell me, just lie.
I think I was in high school.
Just lie and say you were a second grader.
Alex, Alex.
Actually, I thought that was so funny. It made me want to call in.
I can't hear. I can't hear. What, Alex?
I loved it. Because you pissed me off a lot of times, but man, you make me laugh. Holy mackerel. Anyway, listen.
I'm glad I make you laugh. That's what this is all
As Ricardo's, unfortunately, I never went there to eat, but I know there's a lot of Mexican restaurants in this town that are just overly priced Taco Bell food. So maybe that's what's going on there. I don't know. But I think, unfortunately, the coronavirus has pushed over businesses over the edge, and they are going out of business because of that. And I also believe that, unfortunately, people are passing away. As you heard on the news, you can't deny, Brian, that a lot of these cases, people are dying because they already had some serious underlying cases.
Well, there's no question, Alex. No, you're right. You made some good points there. I want to bring something back to light about the lemonade stand. I think if you find any 40-year-old man that's running a lemonade stand, good chance you saw him starring on the hit TV show To Catch a Predator.
What about a 17-year-old?
Well, I mean, maybe I was lying there. Maybe I was 13. I actually don't remember.
You didn't actually have one, did you?
I did run a lemonade stand when I was very young. I think it was before I had my first girlfriend. So according by that logic, Stein would open up a lemonade stand right now. But
what was going to happen here?
Honestly, I'm not convinced that you. I think that you actually made that story up to make it sound like you had some experience.
No, I made that story up because I do something that you don't do. I make people laugh. That's why I did.
So you didn't actually have a lemonade stand then?
No comment. 702-257-5396 is the number to call.
Oh my!
Let's go to Ron. Ron, you're next up on the Vegas tape.
Hey, what's up, Ron?
Hey guys, how are you? Listen,
Good.
Brian,
Well.
I gotta agree with you with the interview that you had earlier, because you spoke about the officer yesterday. But I will say this: unfortunately, politics start at the top, and you got to vote people in and you got to vote people out. That's just the way it goes. I don't agree with the governor, but like I said, I used to be in law enforcement, and if I have to do my job, it's handed down to me to do my job. Okay, people are going to have to recognize that when their rights are stomped on constitutionally, they're going to have to sue. That's all I could say. When you're under somebody else, it doesn't matter if you agree with them or disagree with them. You do your job. That's why we have a president that we don't like, because people don't like him. Some people do. That's just the way it is.
You're right.
Him? Absolutely.
Here's what I would rather happen, Ron, and you can tell me whether you agree or not. And I do agree with what you said, by the way. I think that, if I'd rather have somebody file a lawsuit and not put people's lives at risk than for people to disobey what the governor says, open up their stores or shops or whatever, not practice social distancing, and put people at risk. I would rather use the court systems for that, let a judge decide, rather than you be the person that makes those decisions or a police officer make those decisions when you're not a doctor or a scientist.
Yeah, just so that you know, I do like
I think we lost you,
care
Ron.
so much for Obama, I would protect him. Absolutely. I wouldn't want
Fair
my
enough.
country without a
Fair
leader.
enough.
Because that's
Ron,
where more trouble happens.
And Ron, it's good to hear from you, my friend. I do appreciate the
Great
phone
call,
call.
Ron.